in the pandemic times. Now, before we begin our first session, which is on pedagogy, I would like to share a small anecdote from the history. The word pedagogy, as we all know, comes from a Greek word called pedagogos, which means pedos means child and gogos means leader. Now, in ancient Greek society, there was a strong distinction between a pedagogue and a subject teacher. The pedagogues at that time used to be slaves or spoils of war that were employed by the privileged sections of the society in Greek and later on even in Roman society. Now, this pedagogue used to be a kind of companion to the children of their masters from the age of 7 till the age of till they reach the age of adolescence. Now, in this context and with this background, once Socrates had a conversation with a young boy, and this conversation was Socrates asked him, "Boy, someone controls you?" The boy replied, "Yes, he is my tutor, the pedagogue." So he asked him in response, "Is he a slave?" He said, "Yes, why certainly, he belongs to us." And to this, Socrates mused and exclaimed, "What a strange thing! A free person is controlled by a slave." So, through his questions and the dialogue with the young boy, Socrates at that time was raising a very crucial issue that we still are delving with. And I think it is an ongoing challenge, whether we are in a physical classroom or whether we are in a virtual context. Another interesting thing that I'm experiencing right now is that information technology and educational technology, these are a part of our physical classrooms, whichever form they are in, maybe as a teaching aid or a resource or whatever we call them. But today, this IT or ET has taken over the entire classroom. Now, IT is not there in our class. Our class is in the IT. So this is another changing context, another changing challenge that we are experiencing. So with this, I'm very curious to know from Professor Meenakshi Singh how she is going to respond or how is she responding to these challenging contexts. The title of her presentation is Pedagogical Practices, Need for Education and Virtual World. Just to introduce her, Professor Meenakshi Singh is a faculty of education, BHU, and she specializes in a variety of areas, starting from educational research and evaluation, educational technology and ICT, classroom and behavioral management, as well as maths and science education. So a very apt person to begin with, both IT and pedagogy. So let's explore with her this interface between IT and pedagogy. Over to you, Professor Meenakshi Singh.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. A very good afternoon to all. And now that we have relaxed our time schedule and we are getting late already, I can take a few minutes to just a small chit chat and just share my experiences of this new system. As soon as Dr. Haneet asked whether she was audible, as soon as anybody asks whether one is audible, there are about 130 or 40 replies that yes, you are audible. As soon as the presentation starts, people try to make attempts because at the end of the day, we are sitting with our PC and we think that our control is only on our PC. And when somebody is attempting to load a presentation, it ultimately hinders the ethos or the ongoings of the entire class. So we should recall the soldiers doing the alpha 1 to alpha 2 thing. And when they say something, they say it and they say over and out. And likewise, we must also resolve to some practices. We may not say over and out, but the moment we have finished saying, we should shut down our microphones. And also, the videos running in the background are a hindrance. And we in India don't have excellent bandwidths. Our bandwidths are limited, and so the amount of data that can be transferred is less. So having said that, I would like to start my presentation and proceed. Uh, Give me a few moments to just begin the presentation. Yes. So I'm not asking the question, I'm audible or I'm visible. I'm assuming that I'm audible and I'm visible. So my presentation is about pedagogical practices, the need for education in the virtual world. I'm Dr. Meenakshi Singh from Banaras Hindu University. I've been very well introduced by Dr. Yukti Sharma, and I'm very grateful to her. I may also add that I have done a PhD in an area which till now, I cannot categorize what kind of research it is. I had developed a software for tutorials of B.Ed students, and it incorporated quite a bit of programming that was prevalent in those days. And later on, when PowerPoint came into the country, PowerPoint in its most rudimentary form, I adopted some PowerPoint presentations, which anybody would say that making a PPT for a PhD is nothing. But yes, in those days, there was no computer in the whole of the faculty which could accommodate the entire Microsoft Office uh, files. There were 17 floppies, and we could not accommodate them. So we had to seek help of other departments, and we finally located a faculty which had a computer which could hold all those, which could hold the entire program. And thereafter, I could continue with my PhD. Subsequently, I also bought a 486. I was very proud of the 486 at that time. So, but this sounds like fairy tale. And today, things are different. Right now, we are all locked down in the COVID-19 pandemic. We are adopting new lifestyles. We are speaking into computers, which is a difficult state to be. Actually, I also have an interest in public speaking. I love to sometimes I even talk to my students about how to be a good speaker, and my entire focus is on the audience, whether the audience, the feedback of the audience, the response of the audience, the humor with the audience, the smile on the audience's face. And right now I'm feeling handicapped having to talk to this little machine in front of me. I cannot see a single person smiling. I cannot have eye contact. And so these are the difficult things that we have to face. Nonetheless, this is the only way out. Having been locked in the pandemic, we have to do something to go ahead. I take this moment to applaud the teachers. Any family with youngsters would realize that at this time, this is the moment when we realize what a splendid job our teachers do, what a service to mankind they do. And the good thing about this lockdown is that a newfound regard for the teachers' work has been, accepted, and people have given their views about the contributions of teachers, and they realize that the kind of work they do is far more worthy of acclaim than they are given. So having said that, I would like to move ahead. So now, just because teachers are solely responsible for the educational front, right now they are acquiring new ways, new techniques. Teachers are getting into the online mode, and they have made a transition which was abrupt, of course, but it was also automatic. And so we as teacher educators can also share a little bit of the acclaim and say that yes, partly we are also responsible for having trained them into this mode. Even if we did not train them into ICT, we have trained them to adaptability, and so they have adapted to this new mode. So to begin with, in this discourse of the virtual world, I plan to talk of real issues, real concerns, and also some real solutions. And if time permits, I would also like to address some of the concerns that were raised yesterday. Looking backwards, This is just a glimpse of the telecommunication landmarks in India, what and how ICT made its inroads. At the time of independence, there were just 321 telephone exchanges. In 1976, the first ISD line between Bombay and London was started. Since 2000, the 100% foreign direct investment in telecom and manufacturing sector has seen changes. In fact, right from 1986, we had seen a wide network of PCOs which are shutting down now. And today, till the December 2019, there were 1.1724 billion subscribers. There were 661.94 million broadband internet subscribers. And there is also a data of how many smartphones were there, but that data is still 2018. So what I want to say here is that we have come a long way. We have, as people of the country, as citizens of a country, acquired this technology. We have got Aadhaar cards, we have got smartphones, and we also have internet connectivity. And considering the fact that India is a poor country, and this number is quite awesome. This number is quite large. Right from the Asiad in the 1982, when the color television era began, then the landmarks of the growth of ICT in India and telecommunications, the satellites, the INSAT, the GSAT series till 30, I think the 30 is the last one. The class program, the computer literacy and studies in schools program in 1980, and then the strengthening of ICT in all schools under the program of action of the NPE, and the coming of the internet to India on 15th August 1995, the National Mission on Education through ICT 2009. So these are some landmarks, and very recently, this program ended just before we got into the pandemic phase. They started in August, the NIShtha program, the National Initiative for School Heads and Teachers Holistic Advancement. It started in August 2019 and ended in probably February. And this is one in the world where 4.2 million teachers and administrators were. Out of the 11 expected outcomes of this program, incorporating ICT and integrating it to the curriculum was one of them. Now I come to the hard facts. What are the factors that, in spite of such statistics, hinder the use of ICT in the schools or in the educational institutions at large? It's not just the schools. In fact, I would like to admit here that schools have got a better standing of ICT usage than higher education institutions, despite of the funding. Anyway, so the research that has gone into it worldwide, it's not just Indian context, but more or less the contexts match. Research states that there are three broad categories of reasons or factors that are responsible for this: the institutional, the factors related to the resources, and to some extent the teacher's own personal biases. I shall be taking them up one by one and just briefly go through it. So the first, the institution related factor that emerges here is the lack of incentives to change. There are no positive incentives. There is no encouragement for the change. Barring this program in 2019, NIShtha, this was an additional burden to teachers, particularly in the Indian context. I'm speaking in the Indian context because I have first-hand information about the Indian educational system. So this is an important factor, whether we have given an additional incentive to this change or not. Then the lack of support and cooperation among colleagues. The when the teacher tries to acquire a new skill, it is not that the teacher is rid of all other assignments or all other tasks. In such a situation, the teacher needs the cooperation of the colleagues, the support of the other faculty members. And in most cases, there is a shortage of this kind of support. Sometimes all teachers are involved in something or the other. Teachers are a group who are overworked. So this kind of cooperation among colleagues is missing. The next one is the lack of time required to integrate the technology into the curriculum. We have been doing fragmented teaching. We have we learn the technology, we know how to operate computers, we know how to operate smartphones, but we have not been able to successfully integrate them into the curriculum. It is only recently, because of this lockdown, that we have got into the webinar mode. It is not difficult to see that had it not been for the pandemic, this seminar would have been in a different form, or maybe this would not have been at all. So we were forced into integration of this in our curriculum, or even in higher education, even in the most advanced educational institutions. The need to undertake teaching classes or meetings with Zoom, with Google Meets, or with Hangouts, or whichever, has arisen because we have been forced into this integration. We would not have done it otherwise. And not just not done it, it was not in the offing. It was not coming in the near future. It was this situation for which we were not prepared, and for which has come, and it has come up on our heads. And then, so we are doing it, and we are like now trying to acquire new skills. We are trying to learn and do things. So the next is the lack of support from the administration. The teachers, a teacher who's willing to go and take up a course elsewhere, needs a leave for a few days, would not be allowed from schools or by the administrators. Then also the teacher's own role as for the classes that they take would not be shared. Some more institutional factors are the reluctance of schools to adopt new practices and implementation of ICT. Schools are reluctant, they are slow to adopt, and everything that the school administration or the entire group of teachers, any addition is perceived as a new task or a new added burden on them. And it is not untrue to say that teachers are overburdened. They've got plenty of work and plenty of engagements in the whole day. But even to have tried this new method, which would have actually lightened their weight, would not be possible. Now, these reasons may not sound very, apt right now, because we are in a different situation. But these are the reasons why we are lagging behind, why we have not acquired these skills, why we are not into the mode of smooth transition. Why do we have to have this abrupt transition? Why do we have difficulties running, classes using this mode? It is because we have not been trained for that, and we have never acquired, we have not foreseen the need. Then even the complacency of the schools, the lack of will to adopt new ways, and they also are apprehensive about what the new technique will bring. The expenditure is another thing. And also the rigid cultural beliefs about the student-teacher relationship. From the time I was an M.Ed student, I have been, my M.Ed dissertation was in fact a study of the opinion of teachers about, introduction of computers to schools, because that was the time of class and CALT and, all those computer-assisted language learning and all those programs. So at that time, I still remember most of the teachers were totally wary of this new thing, and they were not even willing to give. Most of them tried to dissuade me, in fact, that why have you chosen this topic? This like it was not something. So anyway, I needed quite a lot of push from my supervisor's end to let me continue, because I was disheartened wherever I went. People were not ready to accept it. But right now, today, when everybody knows that ICT has made inroads, we need to be uh, uh, ICT aware and ICT equipped. Still, there is reluctance because of the beliefs of the so-called senior teachers, senior people in the system, because that is the age group. I mean, I'm in that age group. That is the age group which has not actually tasted or that not attempted to try this methodology. And resource related factors, the lack of machinery, lack of computers, lack of infrastructure uh, will push a teacher, will discourage a teacher to use. In fact, many a times when you go and when you're all set for a presentation in your class and you realize that a particular chord is missing, or a particular chord has been eaten by the rat, and the projector system is not functioning, you make up your mind not to fall back on this method. You decide at that moment that these things are not working, this is just for show, we better resort to our usual conventional methods. So this kind of experiences will lead a teacher to, will dissuade a teacher from using ICT. And what experiences a school teacher has is difficult to say, although schools are better kept, better maintained, but still the poor quality of software, the poor quality of hardware, and all those issues that are linked with them dissuade teachers from using ICT. The next point here is the absence of specialists. We have always faced the shortage of people who can handle our problems. We cannot rely entirely on the little knowledge that our students carry, or the little that learning that we have out of trial and error. We need IT teams in schools or in universities who will attend to your ICT related problems. So during the online admission time, we are treated like VVIPs, and a single problem is attended to. But this is not the case throughout the year. The whole year round, we can have a lot of ICT related problems. ICT related problems may not be institutional entirely. It could be the BSNL line getting crushed, or the flooding of the city, or things like that. There could be so many. And so a team of skilled men, or at least a skilled person, is needed in every institution to be able to attend to the little needs of the teachers, the little glitches that they face. And also the last point that I would like to make, I'm skipping a few points because I want to contain my speech, not to go beyond the time limit. The lack of user-friendly software and applications, this we also know. Not just the lack, the inavailability. They are not available to us. If I want to take a class on Zoom which doesn't end after 30 minutes, I need to spend some money. If I want to go for the Google Suite, I need to spend money. So these software and these applications, even if we are aware of them, we need to expend money to acquire, which is not possible for teachers. So this shortage of either funds to buy or the availability is also a major reason why teachers shirk from the use of ICT. Coming to the teachers' personal beliefs and teachers' personal problems. The first one that is very obvious is due to poor computer training. Teachers are not trained. They don't have the experience with ICT. They are resistant to any kind of intervention from the outside. Whenever things are imposed on them, whether it is from the administration or from the outside, from the government or from the state government, whatever, there is a resistance. This resistance is natural. It is natural to us. We don't want to dislodge from our comfort zones. Then, of course, that we have stressed that earlier, there is the time management issues are there, teachers' own personal biases or own personal perceptions, teachers' beliefs about how something can be taught, the what we call pedagogical knowledge, teachers' beliefs about how a subject matter should be taught. And just because the teacher is not not friendly with the ICT mode, the teacher will never think on those lines. So it is just like a cycle. If you are not trained, if you are not exposed, you will not try. If you don't try, you will not be exposed and you will not get training. So it goes round and we land up in situations. And in one way or the other, we should be thankful to the pandemic for having pushed us into this, and now majority people are acquiring these skills. Uh, then the classroom activities, the handling of online classes, the if a teacher wants to use a projector while the class is going on, then things are not done in such a way, particularly in our schools or I should not be talking of schools, rather I should be talking of higher education institutions, that things are not in such an order that you can automatically get into that phase. I have not yet experienced a class in which I have not wasted 10 or less, or 10 or more also sometimes, minutes before having overcome all technological, all technical issues related to the setting up of the ICT system. So it is always like that we either we don't maintain things, or the same thing, I think the maintenance person is not there. So things do not run in automatically, or do not run in the natural mode. So maintenance aspect is also to be seen. And once the teacher experiences this problem, the class goes haywire and the management related issues come up. So a teacher realizes that if I have to use this kind of a system, I better have more time on hand, or I better control my class better. So this is going to be a management problem, so might as well stop it. So the last point is the burnout among teachers, the lack of commitment to their professional learning. They are overburdened with work, so they may not be willing to acquire new skills.
Dr. Yukti?
Hello.
Yes, Meenakshi ma'am.
Am I audible, visible?
Yes, you are. We're waiting. We thought you'd continue,
Yeah,
so we were waiting.
yeah, I'm still not even midway, and I'm sorry because I was under the impression that we are relaxed about time, So I'll rush. Okay.
Yeah.
So now, what are the factors that encourage teachers to use technology? Obviously, just the opposite scenario from the ones that we have discussed: the cooperation among colleagues, the support from the school, the staff development programs, the courses, the capacity building programs. All these things will encourage teachers to acquire these pedagogies. Then also the last one here is more emphatic. We should not have extra large classes, because those are when teachers fail to manage them and lose control. So small class sizes which are manageable and easy to control. Even in the online mode, I think it's not a good idea to have a very large class. Then better presentation of materials. At the moment the teachers realize that there is something to gain from this mode, they are willing to try. So when the presentation of materials is better, when the teachers realize that it is easy, the lesson is interesting, and the pupils are enjoying, there is a variety and diversity, so they automatically would like to they would be encouraged to try the technology. So the teacher's internal motivation and commitment and all those factors are responsible. The point in this slide that I would like to emphasize is that the sync between the teacher's pedagogy and the available software. When there is a sync, when there is a match, when the software fulfills the needs of the teacher is ready to use it. So this is important, and this is not easy. Nobody on, people are doing research in artificial intelligence, in ICT and whatnot, but very little research is being done into how the functioning of a teacher can be made easy through ICT. So there is a need for IT people to be in touch with teachers. There is a need to fund such research wherein teachers and IT professionals sit together. The teachers indicate what they need and how they need, what kind of difficulties they face, and together they can develop some kind of app. Or then also for different subjects, different kind of applications are required. So teachers can be of use. In fact, there are a lot of educational software available, but not every software is suited to every teacher. The other thing that can be done is to develop platforms, or the kind like HTML kind of platforms, wherein a teacher can by the use of a small list of some coding, a little coding, teacher can develop what they need on their own. I think if HTML, we used to teach HTML at BHU, but it has been ever since the NCT curriculum has come, we have stopped doing that. But had it been incorporated in this, like the way they do it in schools, if it is there, it is not far when teachers can devise their own or design their own web pages and small interactive pages, just like PowerPoint. Just as we are friendly with PowerPoint now, people can do it on HTML and create web pages. It's not far. So now I come to the midway. Now I'm just picking up the issues and concerns, most of which I have picked from yesterday.
Excuse me, Professor Meenakshi, there are lots of questions coming in response to your presentation, and we would like that you should take some questions also, because the presentation is so intriguing that there are lots of questions coming.
Can we?
You can please
You
wind
want
up
me
and
to
take those questions.
You want me to take the questions midway, or you
No,
want me to?
not midway, but just if you can
Should I
wind
finish?
up.
No, just tell me, Dr. Sharma. Should I take it? Stop sharing and take the questions now, or should I proceed?
No, you should proceed and take it in the end only.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
we want to keep some time for those valuable questions also. Just that I was saying. Yeah.
Sure.
Please,
Sure.
ma'am, please proceed. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So these are the points that I'll be, these are the issues, and most of them are from yesterday's discussions. Language. So language translation was one concern. Sir had said that जो भाषा हमारा बच्चा गांव में नहीं समझ पा रहा है, उस भाषा में कोई काम करके क्या फायदा है? So that language that touched me, and then I looked up, and I just realized we have got language translators, we have got instant speech to speech apps and translators. Then we can also make use of artificial intelligence. I think this is the very rudimentary thing, very easy thing for AI to do. And in fact, I've got a few. So this is a handheld device. This is very popular in all tourist spots outside. It has got a small smart screen. It has got a kind of a virtual keypad. The moment you click a button, a keypad will come, and you can either see the video, listen to the video. You can choose your language and look at the exhibits of the. It is very popular among all tourist spots in developed countries. So this is one very simple device. And now we are talking of language translation in online mode. So it is not that the teacher is sitting in front of the child and speaking in an alien language and the child has to translate it automatically. We are talking of online mode. So this kind of device can be used. It does synchronous translation. Likewise, we also have this pilot. It is like an earphone. You plug it in, and it uses Bluetooth, and it will translate the language automatically. the language that the child is friendly with. So talking of artificial intelligence, we have got ways of, this is the windscreen of a car. This is not the speedometer located underneath. This is above, at the line of vision of the driver, where the driver can see the speed of the car. This is AI for healthcare. So what I'm trying to emphasize here is that AI is being used for so many things. Why not for education? We have to come up with ideas what we want, and anything that we can think of will be turned to reality. They will be able to do it. So the next point that was raised up there was the lack of interaction and how to interact or ask questions. So for questions, there can be synchronous or asynchronous exchange. There can be emails, WhatsApp, or like in this mode, there can be a hand raising or a, indication to the teacher that I have a query. There can be a small message that I need a question, and then the question can be responded to synchronously. For asynchronous, we've got the WhatsApp, we've got the email, we can also have some artificial intelligence used here. We can have chatbots. These are the small, the figures that appear on your net banking site. Sometimes we have got for SBI and HT. Most banks have it. These those are not very efficient, but chatbots can be really efficient because they are actually agents. They can link you to a real person. They can resolve your queries based on the kind of programming that has gone into it, and they can be quite efficient as robots. So these are called chatbots. Then during the class, we can also have polls. In fact, it should be a practice in order to draw the attention of the students at the time when you're teaching. Like in this kind of a mode, we could have had, online polls to decide whether the presentation should continue or should the questions be taken. This kind could have been done. Then there are some other, platforms like Moodle, the quizzes, the Edmodo. All these they have got unique features which can help a teacher as and when required. Moodle is a platform which attends to, which has got this, other than all the other features, it has a feature that if you ask a question, normally what happens in a class, if somebody says an answer, the other person stops thinking and copies that answer or replicates that answer in other words or in the same words. People say, yeah, they agree to. So, but in this one, there is a feature that you cannot see the other person's response unless you have responded yourself. So Moodle is one software. Quizzes is one wherein you can take online tests. In fact, people are doing it in schools now, and if we can do it in higher education institutions, we can schedule a test, invite the participants and make them do the test online, restrict the time for each question. They cannot proceed from one question to the other unless they have attempted it.
Excuse me, Professor Meenakshi, can we take up the questions? I mean, if you can wind up in another 3 minutes, we can invest some time on the questions and people would like to discuss. There are lots of chats coming in. So if you can respond to their queries you can wind up the session, and
I think I'll be able to do it in another 3-4 minutes. There are more pictures, less of talking now.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
So this is another, this is Edmodo. Edmodo has got the provision for assignments. You can schedule assignments, you can time assignments, you can allocate deadlines for assignments, and no assignments will be submitted within that deadline, and the others which have gone beyond the deadline will not be accepted. So this is again another good platform. Then the 2G, 3G, 4G disparity was also another issue. To this, I have one experience to share. That this is a regular practice in the most developed countries, that they automatically record all lectures. So there is a projector in the classroom, and or the blackboard or the or that vision actually, and there is a system which automatically records all the lectures, pandemic or no pandemic. The lectures are recorded, they are uploaded to the web pages of the course automatically, and the students who are present or absent or willing to repeat their lesson can easily watch those. The lessons are restricted to that particular year only. You don't get to see archives of video lessons. You will see the lessons that are being taught in your course by your teachers. So those are made available on the web pages. So why can't we have this simple, you don't need much to do this, a simple camera, a microphone, and this projector system which can record sound properly is needed, and this is not a big thing. We should get into this mode because this is also good for monitoring the quality of the teaching. So this kind of recording of lectures should be done, and and many a times you feel that some spontaneous classes are too good and they should be recorded, and when you have missed the chance, you have missed it. So sometimes this will be a good habit. Okay, then the right to technology. Yes, it was raised yesterday. I'm very much, I am in with this idea, although it never occurred to me that we can call it a right to technology. But I did feel that now, in today's times, internet and broadband services are, essential services, just like roads, just like water, just like electricity. We need a good bandwidth, good broadband, and subsidized. So, and we also need some kind of training for teachers. So this right to technology is a very appealing idea to me, and I totally condone it. As power cuts, well, that is beyond us. So all we can do is save energy, make awareness, allow our students to save and use solar energy. Research, yes, as far as research is concerned, we should make sure that the wasteful funding is checked. I have to admit that in the recent times, I got to see a lot of projects, whether they were local or from outside, and I was really upset at the level, at the quality, and the enormous amount they were claiming for that. When we were trying our projects in UGC, we were very stringent about how much. In fact, social sciences don't allow that scale of money. But still, we had some justification for what we are doing. And most of these projects are actually sanctioned that kind of money. And this is really ugly. So there has to be a check on how money, hard-earned taxpayers' money is being, diverted to research and where. In fact, need-based, context-based research should be promoted. And so this is my thought on research. Yes, and managing online classes. Yeah, preparation is essential. You have to lay down certain rules. You have to express it just like normal classes. Webinars and web classes are also in need of proper management strategies by teachers. Yeah, this was my idea of the Alpha 1 to Alpha 2. Well, I can stop now.
Okay.
This will take another few minutes, but anyway,
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you so much, Professor Meenakshi. I mean, it was such an informative, and the amount of coverage that you have done is such a wide coverage being covered that has made it very, very intriguing. And in fact, that has triggered many questions in the minds of the people.
Okay.
So I would like to quickly invite Dr. Rakesh Singh. Dr. Rakesh Singh, you can unmute yourself and ask your question to Professor Meenakshi. Please, let's do it a little quickly so that we can manage our time also. Dr. Rakesh Singh, please unmute yourself and ask the question. Dr. Rakesh Singh? Yeah. Dr. Rakesh Singh, you need to unmute yourself. You're still on mute mode. Please unmute yourself.
Dr. Yukti, you can read out the question in the meanwhile. Dr. Sharma, Dr. Yukti Sharma, please read out the question.
Is it in the chat?
Maybe I'll take somebody else's question. Dr. Nilima Asthana, would you like to ask in the meanwhile?
अगर जिसे आपने भी बताई
डॉक्टर
आर्टिफिशियल
राकेश सिंह।
इंटेलिजेंसी के दौर में जब हम पहुंचेंगे। हाँ, क्या मुझे पहले नहीं सुना? हेलो।
हाँ, आप सुनाई दे रहे हैं राकेश
मेरा
जी।
सवाल क्या मैं रिपीट करूं?
अभी आप सुनाई दे रहे हैं,
पहले
पहले आप म्यूट पे थे।
क्या मैं अपना सवाल रिपीट करूं?
जी जी जी
बिल्कुल
जरूर।
रिपीट करिए, आप म्यूट पे
नहीं,
थे।
म्यूट में नहीं था मैं। अ, मैं आपसे ये कह रहा था कि जैसे हम वर्चुअल
डॉक्टर राकेश सिंह,
सुनाई नहीं दे रहा उनका क्वेश्चन।
मैं पढ़ दूं आपका सवाल?
ये ये एक बड़ी समस्या है, और एक समस्या ये भी है कि हमारे जो घर में भी बैठे
डॉक्टर राकेश सिंह, यू आर
अभिभावक
नॉट
हैं, वो
ऑडिबल।
भी अभी इस बात से संतुष्ट
हेलो
नहीं।
डॉक्टर
मैडम,
राकेश सिंह,
would you read the
आपकी
question?
आवाज सुनाई नहीं
मैंने
दे रही,
ऑन
थोड़ा
कर
लाउड
रखा है,
सुनिए
ऑन
और
कर रखा है।
कैमरा भी ऑन कर लीजिए प्लीज।
मैंने ऑन
आई
कर
थिंक
रखा
आई कैन
ऑन कर
आई कैन रीड हिज
रखा है।
क्वेश्चन।
मेरा सवाल आप पढ़ लीजिए अगर आपको, क्योंकि मैंने इसे ऑन कर रखा है।
आपकी आवाज ब्रेक होके आ रही है, एक्चुअली टूट रही है, इसलिए हम आपसे रिक्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं।
आप ऐसा कीजिए कि आप इसे पढ़
हाँ,
लीजिए।
डॉक्टर राकेश सिंह का
मैं कह रहा
प्रश्न
हूं,
है
अगर
सबसे।
आपको लग रहा है कि मेरी आवाज जो है, जो आपने मैंने सवाल दिया है उसे आप पढ़ सकते हैं, अगर मेरी आवाज आपको
जी
लग
जी।
रही है ऐसी।
अब आपका
उसे
वीडियो
पढ़कर
ऑडियो
सवाल
आप
यही है।
तुरंत पूछिए।
जी, अब आ रही है आवाज?
अब आ रही है, पढ़िए आप प्रश्न अपना।
जी
हाँ जी,
बिल्कुल।
पढ़िए, अब आ रही है।
जी, मेरा सवाल सिर्फ इतना है कि आजकल जो एफबी पर तमाम तरह की क्लासेस चल रही हैं या इंटरनेट पे वर्चुअल मीडियम में चल रही हैं, उन क्लासेस में एज ए सब्जेक्ट एक्सपर्ट जो हम उन्हें दें, उनकी जो विषय सामग्री होती है वो कई बार ऐसी होती है कि जिसको हम पा रहे हैं, ये विषय अनुरूप है। तो इसको देखने के लिए इस वर्ल्ड में आप किस तरीके से वो करेंगे, कहाँ, खासकर जब छोटे बच्चे आपके सामने हैं। दूसरी बात यह है कि जो ह्यूमन टच है उसको अभी एक बहुत बड़ी पीढ़ी उसे भूल नहीं सकती। बच्चों में भी जिन लोगों से हमारा लगातार संवाद हो रहा है, वो उस कक्षाओं को ऑन करके इधर उधर काम पे लग जाते हैं, क्योंकि वीडियो तो आप मना करते हैं, वीडियो बंद कर दीजिए, ऑडियो बंद कर दीजिए, तो आप भी उन्हें नहीं देख पा रहे हैं, लेकिन वो आप इसको ऑन ऑफ करके वो इधर उधर काम पे लग जाते हैं। तो एक ये है कि जो एजुकेशन के लिए हम जिस तरह की हमारे दिमाग में धारणा है वो बदल रही है। और तीसरा और लास्ट इसमें जुड़ता हुआ ये है कि जो वर्चुअल वर्ल्ड है, क्या वो अपने हिसाब से तथ्य और ज्ञान नहीं गढ़ रहा है, या ये समय की जरूरत है, हमें इसे स्वीकार कर लेना चाहिए? यही मेरा सवाल था।
बहुत बढ़िया सवाल।
बात है। आपका पहला सवाल मुझे भूल गया, तीसरे सवाल के आते आते।
मेरा ये कि
आप क्या कह रहे हैं?
मैं ये कह रहा था कि जो आजकल तमाम तरह के वर्चुअल वर्ल्ड में क्लासेस या दौर
हाँ, फेसबुक पे जो क्लासेस चल रही है
हाँ,
उनका मटेरियल प्लेजियराइज्ड है, आपका ये कहने का
हाँ
मतलब?
जी, ये कई यूनिवर्सिटी भी शामिल है उसमें। तो उसमें जो वक्ता आते हैं या बोलने वाले आते हैं, उनका मटेरियल ऐसा होता है कि हम महसूस करते हैं कि ये कहीं भी तथ्यात्मक नहीं है, और उसे एक बहुत
हाँ,
बड़ा लार्ज कम्युनिटी को जो संबोधित कर रहे हैं वहाँ गलत चीज जा रही है, जो कभी गूगल के बारे में भी ऐसा कहा जाता था। मैं सिर्फ ये
नहीं, इस पर तो रोक लगनी ही चाहिए। ये तो एक टीचर की अपनी जवाबदेही होती है, उनकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है। और ये कोई मतलब इसमें कुछ भी छुपा हुआ नहीं है। अगर प्लेजियराइज्ड है तो दे शुड बी पेनलाइज्ड। इसमें
तो
कोई
हम लोगों को शुरुआती दौर में कुछ ऐसे मानक नहीं बना लेने चाहिए, मेरी चिंता
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल बना ही लेने चाहिए। ये मानक तो बने ही हुए हैं। प्लेजियरिज्म की बात आज थोड़ी निकल रही है, ये तो बहुत दिन से है। अब टीचर अगर क्लास में नोट डिक्टेशन देते हैं, नोट्स लिखाते हैं और किसी और किताब से लिखा रहे हैं, तो ये नोट्स देने के लिए क्लास थोड़ी ना है। आप उसको जिरोक्स कर सकते हैं, आप उसका स्कैन कॉपी भेज सकते हैं, आप बहुत कुछ कर सकते हैं स्टूडेंट्स का टाइम बर्बाद करने की जगह। तो उसकी क्या जरूरत है? लेकिन करते हैं करने वाले। ये टीचर की अपनी जवाबदेही है। आप अपने समय का, अपने विद्यार्थी के समय का कैसा दुरुपयोग सदुपयोग कर रहे हैं, और आप अपनी छवि को कहाँ ले जा रहे हैं एज अ टीचर। ये virtual world is also a world. People are there. People know you. You are there with an identity. You cannot fool everybody. They say no. You can sometimes you can fool everybody. Sometimes you can fool. Some people you can fool all the time, but you cannot fool everybody all the time. So this is the teacher's own responsibility. Coming to your second question.
दूसरा मेरा ये था कि वही जो मेरा ये था कि नया ज्ञान, क्या वर्चुअल वर्ल्ड अपना ज्ञान और तथ्यों को नहीं गढ़ेगा, ये छूट हम उसे देंगे क्या?
नहीं, ये मैं नहीं समझ पा रही हूँ कि कैसे गढ़ेगा।
जैसे मैं आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस की बात कर रहा हूँ।
हाँ।
अभी जो हमारी एजुकेशन में है, आप पूरी एजुकेशन को देख लीजिए, कल भी बात हो रही थी और अभी आपने भी सांस्कृतिक बात उसकी बात करी, टच की बात करी। उस पूरी एजुकेशन में वो सांस्कृतिक टच है, ह्यूमन टच है।
हाँ,
जब
मैं समझ, मुझे याद आ गया। आप जो ह्यूमन टच की बात कर रहे थे, मैंने कल भी इस पर चैट पे बहुत लोगों ने ये सवाल किया कि एक टीचर के व्यक्तित्व का जो प्रभाव पड़ता है वो नहीं पड़ेगा, ये सब पड़ा। मैंने सोचा इस पर, लेकिन फिर मुझे दो बातें समझ में आई। पहली बात तो ये समझ में आई कि हम जिस तरह जो हमारे माइंड में सीखने को लेकर के छवि बनी हुई है, ये दिमाग में हमारे है कि हम एक हाड़ मास के व्यक्ति को सामने देखते हैं, उसको टच कर सकते हैं, उसी से हम सीख सकते हैं, वही टीचर है। और ये जो मशीन है, ये मशीन है, इसको, ये इंडिविजुअल नहीं है, ये हमारा माइंड हमारे साथ गेम कर रहा है, ये माइंड ने कहा है। माइंड को अगर ऐसे ट्रेन करेंगे कि उसको टीचर मानेगा तो उसको ऑटोमेटिकली टीचर मानेगा। और फिर हम अपनी बात करें, अगर हमारी जो पीढ़ी बीती है, हमारी पीढ़ी में इनफैक्ट हमारे ही सीनियर लोग ऐसे थे जो अमिताभ बच्चन के लिए मंदिर बनाते थे, जो राजेश खन्ना के लिए जान देने को तैयार थे, ऐसे लोग थे ना। कितने लोग इन लोगों के संपर्क में आए थे? कभी नहीं। उनको चलचित्र पर ही तो देखा है, लेकिन उनसे प्रभावित थे। तो अगर एक व्यक्ति के या एक टीचर के से प्रभावित होना है, तो उसके लिए सजीव निकट होना जरूरी नहीं है। मेरा ऐसा मानना है। अब ये डिपेंड करता है। डेफिनेटली फर्क तो पड़ेगा ही। ऐसा थोड़ी होगा कि जो बात वो है, जो टीचर एक स्पॉन्टेनियस क्लास ले रहा है, वही मजा इस क्लास में कभी नहीं आ सकता, पास भी नहीं जा सकता। लेकिन ये जो विकल्प है, इसमें देखना पड़ेगा हमको कि क्या ट्रेड है।
ठीक, धन्यवाद। आपका सवाल बहुत है, लेकिन मुझे लगता है औरों को भी मौका मिलना चाहिए।
हाँ, शुक्रिया शुक्रिया राकेश जी, बहुत बढ़िया सवाल। प्रोफेसर मीनाक्षी, because we have gone beyond time, we won't be able to take more questions. Maybe we can have another interaction with you some other time. We can plan, because we have 4-5 more speakers in today's
I heard
program.
Yes.
So we thank you very much for your enlightening session and a very informative session. Now, before we go on to the next session, we are getting many requests for requesting Professor Krishna Moitra to say a few words. She is a retired faculty from a Department of Education, but also she is my guru. I won't introduce her to you. Her name itself is her introduction. Professor Krishna Moitra. Ma'am, please, a few words from you. Ma'am, please unmute yourself and please say a few words before we move on to the next session. Ma'am, please unmute yourself. Moitra ma'am, please unmute and say a few words, ma'am. I think there is some. Moitra ma'am, can you hear us?
Yukti, I think she's not there. I can't.
No, she's there. Please unmute her. She's not able to unmute herself.
No, I can't unmute her. No, she's not there in the list.
No, Bani Mukherjee is her ID. Bani Mukherjee.
I know it's not showing now. It was there 5 minutes earlier. It's not showing now. So I think she has some connection.
Let's
Just now, I
proceed
think she
and
got
we'll
logged
bring
out.
her back when.
Yeah, maybe
When we
once she logs in, we'll again invite her. So now I move on to the next session and invite Dr. Haneek Gandhi to start with the next session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yukti Sharma, for leading such a wonderful session. Thank you, Dr. Minakshi. We now move on to the next session, and we have two very eminent speakers in this session. We have with us Professor Amrut Kumarji and Professor Jeffrey Dulong. Professor Jeffrey Dulong could not be here as per the schedule. You would have realized that he was to be with us yesterday, but he couldn't be with us because of some miscalculation of time. And today we'll invite him to do his whatever he wanted to speak. We'll invite him now for that. But we'll first have Professor Amrut Kumar, who would be talking us. His title of the talk is Understanding Practical Challenges and Possibilities of Virtual Assessment and Process. So with Professor Amrut, I think we are moving on to our third stage of the webinar, which is leading us to assessment. We will talk about assessment through him, look at the possibilities and practical challenges which we are undergoing in this virtual mode. And later on the day, we will have a hands-on experience on doing assessment in the virtual mode. Professor, we know Professor Amrut for, I think we've been in touch in the beginning of this year. And ever since that, we've had a very good relationship with him. All people in CIE, we really find him very energetic, very hardworking. And I won't be wrong if I say that he's the person who's been responsible for setting up an entire, changing the discourse of education in southern part of India. We are very, very happy, Professor Amrut, to have you with us. I'll just quickly read out his bio sketch, which is there in your screen. Professor Amrut is a research awardee of UGC New Delhi. He was awarded with Certificate of Merit for teaching on the basis of student assessment for 5 times consecutively when he was an assistant professor at Pondicherry Central University. He has published 4 books, and to add to that, he's a constant writer in daily newspapers. Sometimes he sends his pieces of work to me, and they're very, very interesting. The latest one was on Darwin's theory and relating that to education. A very critical article, I must appreciate that. He's also written several research papers in national and international journals. And presently, he's undertaken a project of Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya scheme, which is related to teacher education. And within that scheme, he has been able to establish a school of education in the Central University of Kerala. This project is mainly intended to empower many teachers working at several levels. And I totally believe that because of whatever conversations that we've had with him, he's been a true torch bearer in that sense, to lead teachers to think, to critically work, and to be very, very critically minded. His scholarly interests include critical theory in education, neoliberal policies in education, and policy analysis in education. I welcome you, Professor Amrut, and we're keenly looking forward to your presentation. Let me introduce Professor Jeffrey also here, so that we save a bit of a time, and then we'll have 2 continuous mind-boggling sessions with us. Professor Jeffrey is a professor of religion and Asian studies in Elizabethtown College in Pennsylvania, USA. He's associated with Vedanta Society, DANAM, and the Hindu American Foundation. A major theme of Long's work is religious pluralism, a topic he approaches from a perspective informed by the process philosophy of Alfred North Whitehead, and which he refers to as Hindu process theology. He's written several books on Jainism and Hinduism. Honestly, I'll be hearing Professor Long for the first time, but I'm so excited by reading his short bio sketch. I am really thrilled, and we really look forward to his insights also. So I invite Professor Amrut. Over to you, Amrutji. Please put your questions in the chat. We will take it up later at the end of both the speakers. So if there are any questions that come into your mind, please put it in the chat. We will take it at the end of the session. Professor Amrut.
Thank you, Dr. Hanif Gandhi. Good evening to all of you. So happy that I could participate in this 2-day seminar organized by CIE Delhi. Uh, uh, so I think I'm unable to share this PowerPoint presentations, maybe because of some technical glitch, I believe. Anyway, I'll be talking to you. I have given a small subtitle for my study, for my presentation. Actually, I would like to call it as in the fan the speed on those. Like to call it as teacher free tests and supermarket of questions. Thoughts on future of educational assessment in the virtual world. That's what I would like to call my lecture, subtitle my lecture. Of course, the broad title fits with the title which has been given by CIE Delhi. Uh, Let me start with a point that assessment that we see today actually is a tool for the maintenance of the existing status quo. I hope I am audible. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Yeah, thank you. So this is my argument. Assessment in our modern day, even from traditional onwards as well, we can see that assessment is a tool for the maintenance of the status quo in our society. Keep things as such intact, so that there is no major break, no major differences, no major upheaval, so that things will go as such. So the maintenance of status quo is one of the most important purpose of all kinds of assessment across the world, I believe. And important duties, I would like to say that two important duties performed by assessment in our modern society. The first one is homogenization of the youth interests, in the sense homogenizing youth in their culture, homogenizing youth in their way of thinking, homogenizing youth in their way of expressing their own emotions, homogenizing the decorums of the people across the world by suppressing sometimes or by repressing the personal, contextual, social, and several other dimensions of the context of an individual. And this is one of the most important duty of assessment that we do today, so that everybody will think alike. If you ask a question in the examination, if you don't get the same answer from 100 people, if the test has been written by the 100 people, and if you get different answers, you will eliminate the people. If you get the same right answer from all the 100 people, we will approve them. So this is a kind of a standardization of the people, standardization of the human being, so that everybody will respond to a particular stimulus in a similar way, exactly the similar way. If there is any deviance, that is the second purpose of assessment. Assessment will eliminate them. So assessment involves the process of homogenization, a kind of a forced process of homogenization, not by coercive power, but by soft means of applying forces. It homogenizes the people, and those people who are not willing to get homogenized will be eliminated from the system. So these are the two important duties performed by the assessment in our modern days: homogenization, and those who are not willing to homogenize will be eliminated from the system. Elimination and homogenization. And in a broader way, when you look at the total examination and its results that has been coming up in our modern society, you can see that academic achievement tests is not only measuring the so-called achievements of our modern society that we define in our educational system. It's not only measuring the so-called achievement, but it is also a measure of the socio-economic status of the people who are attending that particular test. This is very important. When you look at the people from across India, when you see the schools which are located in the urban center, the schools which are located in the semi-urban center, schools which are in the peripheries of the cities, schools which are in the hinterlands of India, you can see that when you take the total number of, when you take the statistics of the tests who are passing IIT tests, who are passing CBSE 10th standard examination, or whatever be the examination, that not only measure the achievement, but instead it measure the socio-economic status of those tests that we conduct in our schools are indirectly being able to categorize the people into various socioeconomic status. All those with highest socioeconomic status will fall in the first group, high group, and then in the middle group, and then those who are in the poor socioeconomic background will fall in the lower group. Of course, there are exceptions, but the unfortunate thing is that exceptions cannot be treated as a criteria. So exceptions will be there, one or two. And that is the purpose of, or rather I would like to call it as the politics of assessment in the modern society. Now, when we look at the process of assessment, what we can do is that assessment has four important levels of doing it. The first part is planning, and the second part is doing, and the third part is checking, and the fourth part is acting upon it. Of course, acting upon the result. So, this idea of, this planning, doing, checking, and acting is based on certain mythical beliefs of the human being. I would say that planning is been done by us. Say, for example, when you take the case of Benjamin Bloom's taxonomy of instructional objectives, it has almost everything what you wanted to do in an examination. And you need not have to break your head, because teachers here in India do not fix up new instructional objectives. They don't put their own instructional objectives, but instead we look forward to either Benjamin Bloom, or we look forward to Organization for Economic Cooperation and Developments. The instructional objectives proposed to them are being taken by us as the purpose, as the objective of our test. Academic achievement tests and almost all kinds of assessments. So we don't have to take pain out of it. But doing the examination, the second part of it, that we have to take part of it, means sitting the question paper. Of course, the objectives are there, the plan is there, framework is there, blueprint, the broad blueprint is there. But doing the test is, of course, teacher has to do, manually has to do. And checking the result, of course, for the time being at least, the teacher has to do. And of course, acting upon it is also in the form of certain kinds of policies and all this kind of thing. And that's a different kind of an area. I would like to argue that doing and checking are the two important areas where human interference, I would say human, because human, teacher interference very much. Planning and acting is not there very much in the hands of teachers. No, of course teachers, but human interference can be reduced to the minimum in planning and acting. But in doing and checking, the teacher interferences or the human interferences is indispensable, so that it is very essential. This modern process of assessment, or the very base idea of assessment, is following an idea that man is a sinner. Man is a sinner, and his subjectivity, because subjectivity of the human being or the teacher or the student, man is a sinner and his subjectivity is a heresy. Heresy is a kind of disrespect for the religion or disrespect for something of that sort. Here what I meant by heresy is heresy of authority. Means, say, for example, take the case of the story of Adam and Eve. They were in the garden. God sent them from the paradise to the earth, and then they were in the garden of the God, and they had those mango. And what we can see is that this process of sending Adam and Eve to the garden is actually a test by the God given to the human being. And in this process of testing, what happens? This human being has deceived. He's deceived the God. The decree of the God is being deceived by these two people, Adam and Eve. And if you look deep into the genus of the modern system of examination, you can see that modern system of examination has the gene of this particular story. Examination and assessment has this gene of this particular story. Man is a sinner, and he may do all kinds of disrespect for the authority, so he should be continuously tested. It should be assessed continuously. So what we have to do is that if you allow the human subjectivity to play, human being will violate the rules existing, and then he will become a kind of a person who is been wandering around with his own mind. So that should not be allowed. So what we have to do is that we have to block the subjectivity of the human being, and thereby we have to become absolutely objective in its way of conducting. And we have believed that objectivity is synonym to scientific. Objectivity is science itself. You know, what happens as a result, you know, we wanted to avoid subjectivity of the human being from the process of assessment and thereby make it absolutely objective. As a result, what happens if there is a question, it will not have subjective answers, it will have only objective answers. So if there is a question, a person from Kanyakumari to Kashmir should give the same answer. So that is what is called as objective answers, objective type questions. You will give same answers. In this process of objectivity, you know, what we are doing is unknowingly we are fitting, or maybe we are putting this particular gene of the idea of man is a sinner, his subjectivity is a danger. So this man has to be tested continuously whether he is maintaining his subjectivity or not. This is an important issue that I would like to see. This is an important thing which I have seen while I was thinking about this assessment in our modern day. And virtual assessment actually is reinforcing this idea of man as a sinner and his subjectivity is a danger. And man as a sinner and his subjectivity is a danger. Virtual assessment, in fact, corroborate the system to conduct the assessments more and more objective, and by keeping the same kind of an idea that if you let him free, he will create danger. Man will create him. If you let his mind freely, he will create danger in it. And you know, this process of doing and checking is highly in need of the intervention of the teacher, and unfortunately this process we were not able to change so far. And here is where in doing and checking, say for example doing, that means the teacher has to set a question paper, teacher has to go to the classroom, administer it, and then collect it and then check it by valuing it. And these are the two processes where the intervention of the teacher is very essential. The teacher who teaches is very essential. Question paper setting, only one person can do for 1 lakh people. That's possible in India. That's been done everywhere. It doesn't matter whether you have taught the students with the same content or you are assessing the students who are teach or not. It's a different kind of an issue. One question paper can do more than 1 lakh of people, any number of people. It depends on. Let me talk to you a little bit about a new kind of a virus that we are seeing in our modern system, which is called as, I would like to call it as C virus and T virus. C virus is, you know, students in this period of Corona, we can see that we know that it's a period of Corona, and students in everybody is behind this online virtual system of education. Of course, assessment also has to be converted into virtual form, in the online form. So what is the problem that we face today is our examination system was conducted in a common space. Same question for hundreds and hundreds of people in a common space. Why? Because in this common space, I'll come to that. Mainly because of this Corona issue, we are not able to conduct examinations in the common space. Student attending exams at a common space using a customized computer. Say for example, you know, IBM conduct examinations, TCS conduct examination for bank and then central government employment opportunities, for IIT entrance examinations, Central University entrance examinations, and so on. This common entrance tests are going on, but you know, for this common entrance test, you need a set of computer which has been customized by the examining agency. But at present, this is not possible. We don't have customized computer. There is no other programs. This system should not have any other program or anything of that sort. So this is not possible. This is not possible mainly because of the C virus, coronavirus. Now, students doing examination at their own devices at their home. Say for example, I am doing an examination with my mobile phone at my home, or a student doing an examination with their laptop at their home, is not at all possible, acceptable for us now, because that's because of the second virus. That virus is known as T virus, or I would like to call it as trust virus, the virus of trust. Because if you send a student to do the examination at home without the interference of a teacher or a supervisor, without the supervision of a teacher, students may certainly sometimes copy something from the Google and sometimes ask from the elders. Sometimes they may plagiarize, something of that sort may happen. So this is an issue of trust, the problem of trust. This trust is an important issue that we face in the modern examination system. How this, this trustlessness is an important virus that we face today. How this trust has become an important, trust. Why do people copy in an examination system is a very interesting question. Why do people copy in an examination system? We have developed certain kinds of norms and social values in our society. Following or complying that social norms and values in our society is always good for the society as a whole. But following those social norms and values may not give me an immediate benefit. But instead, if I break those social values, I may get an immediate benefit. So complying a social value may not give me an immediate benefit, but it will have a distant social benefit. But if I break it, I will have an immediate benefit. So example is, in an examination hall, trust is a value of the society. If I follow it, if everybody follow it, society will have the benefit. But if I break it, I will have the benefit of it. I will get little extra mark. So what is my mentality is that if I don't break, somebody else will break it. If I don't copy, somebody else will copy. So why should I maintain the value? This is the point of trust and trustlessness in the system of examination. Because of this virus of this T virus, means trustlessness, the virus of trustlessness, we cannot conduct an examination at home with the personal devices of the students. That's impossible for us for the time being, at least. Now, an important phenomenon that I see as a result of this this online virtual initiatives, virtual movement that we are, or an upheaval that we are seeing today, is that an important phenomenon in the future of virtual assessment is accumulation. Accumulation in the sense accumulating things. This is, of course, being an important habit of habit of human being, human generation, mankind. If you ask me, every individual have the habit of preservation of something. If you ask me the difference between a man and a lion, or a man and a wild animal, I would say that it's not because the lion is more ferocious than human being, or the tiger is more ferocious than human being. The basic difference is that human being preserve and wild animals do not preserve. Say, for example, if a lion is done with his food, he may not attack another animal, his prey. He will not attack a prey. But take the case of human being. Even if his belly is full, if he sees something, we will accumulate it. We will preserve it for the future. And this habit of preservation is part of human being. That's what which makes human being different from others. In the online world also, we have this habit of preservation. Going to the internet, downloading a paper. Suppose if you are coming across with a kind of a question, you go to the website, download it. The website will bring you thousands of results. You may go to the first page of Google, and then you download many papers, many PDFs, or maybe of different forms. You download it, thinking that I will read it later. Whether we read it or no is a different kind of an issue, but we will preserve it. We will download it. And this habit of preservation is quite a quintessential nature of human being in our modern society. Now, because of this habit of preservation, say for example, you will have in the field of examination, what you are going to see is the questions and answers for the assessment, like the knowledge in the information world. Questions and answers will take the form of a different kind of knowledge, and these questions and answers will get preserved and accumulated in the virtual world. Say for example, if you wanted to have a question paper on biology, or say for example X or Y subject, Y course, different teachers will be conducting question papers, and then finally what happens in the virtual world has the capacity to download and store all this kind of information. The virtual world will consist of large amount of number of questions to be asked for the examination, for the assessment. I'm not talking about the present condition. You just imagine after 10 years our virtual world will be full of questions about a particular course or a subject. It will have more than 1 lakh questions, because questions emerge from different parts of the world, different corners of the society, from different teachers. So accumulation of questions will happen in the virtual world, and because of this accumulation of world, what is going to happen? Our examination system, university system, or the examining authority will have an accumulated bank of questions. And this bank of questions, which was mentioned by Benjamin Bloom in his process of evaluation, this accumulated branch of questions will be available with the examination authority, and examination authority can randomly select questions from this. Say for example, if you classify it into knowledge level, understanding level, application level, something of that sort, you take 5 from random selection of 5 from knowledge, a random selection of 2 from understanding, random selection of 4 from application, something of that sort. You can randomly select without the interference of the human being. So after 10 years or so, when the virtual world is flooded with the questions of examinations, a person can set, or an examination authority can set a question paper without the support of an examiner. So that's what thinking, that's what may happen in the near future of our system as a result of accumulation, when accumulation is applied to this system of examination. Second one is the technical glitch during the online examinations. So take the case of technical glitch. Say when a person is writing an examination, say for example, you just imagine it's a common examination system. We are giving computers or devices for the students. When a student is working on a device, you just imagine that 100 students are writing the same examination. One student's internet or maybe system got some kind of a technical problem, and then that student could not complete that. Maybe even with an additional computer, they were not able to complete, they were not able to successfully finish the examination. As a result, what happens? Our modern examination system, which has a large, bank of questions, will easily think that we will conduct the examination again. Not for all the people, but for the people who were not able to complete the examination. So what they will do? We have examination questions, assessment questions at different levels. In the first examination, we have randomly select, and the second examination also we will randomly select, so that we take an assumption that first exam and second exam is almost same, because everything is objective. In the first exam, the question will be who is the father of our nation, India. The second exam, the question will be who was the first president of India. Both are objective type question. In the viewpoint of a strictly objective system of education, both test knowledge level, and it's almost same. There is nothing wrong in conducting the examination. So as a result, what happens due to accumulation and due to the technical glitches that may occur, what will happen is that accumulation will facilitate easy conduct of the examination, accumulation of questions. Now, let us look into what is accumulated. It's not only questions, as we know. In modern society, we should call not human being as Homo sapiens, we should call human being as Homo digitus. We are living in a digital world, absolutely digitalized society. What happens in a digital world is You search for knowledge, save it, and then forget it. And when we are in need of the same kind of a paper, maybe after 1 month, again we will search about the same paper. What happens? The same paper will be already there in our system, in our mobile or in our laptop. We may forget because we will never delve into whatever we have saved, but instead we believe that accumulation will help us to use it in future, but that will never happen unless and until you delve into that immediately. It will happen only rarely. Of course, there are people who can do that, but otherwise it happens only only rarely. So what happens as a result? The feeling of information inside, info in, will be converted to info out. Say for example, information inside will be translated into information. It's already there. It's already there. Say for example, if I wanted to remember the phone number of Pankaj Arora, I do not remember the phone number, because instead I will search it in my mobile phone. If I wanted to have something, I will think that it is already there in my mobile phone, in my laptop. So I will just throw away my faculty of memory, and I believe that memory is one of the worst faculty, and I will keep all my information, knowledge outside my brain. So info out is going to be the order of the day. As a result, what happens? Accumulation of large forms of knowledge in different dimensions. Say for example, textual knowledge, audio knowledge, video knowledge. All these forms will accumulated in the internet, in the virtual world. Questions and answers will be uploaded in the virtual world. And as a result, say about a particular same concept, textual, audio, video, all these types of knowledge also will be available. And I believe that this accumulation is going to help assessment to a great extent teacher free. Intervention of human will be minimal, and you can conduct examination without the help of human being. A kind of a dehumanization of teachers is going to happen as a result of this. Teacher free examinations will be the result. As I told you earlier, the teacher free examination will be the result of it. Now, take the case of the students. As we know that our students in our modern day is not accustomed to a style of planning and doing something. Say for example, when I was a small boy, if I wanted to go to a shop, my mother used to give me a list of items to be purchased. So I go to the shop and then get the things purchased out of this list. But now if I wanted to purchase something, I don't plan anything. I'll have just only a broad plan. I don't write down. I don't have only a very broad mental plan. I'll just go to a margin-free market or maybe a supermarket or a mall, and I go to different shops and I take out things. So the ability of the people to plan is gradually being attacked by this virtual system. Of course, memory is already attacked, I told you. And the ability to plan also is been seriously attacked by this virtual society. And as a result, you can see that in the virtual world, there will be a supermarket of questions and answers for the student. It's already there now. But when it becomes legitimized, assessments become legitimized to part of examination. Now we know that different private agencies upload question papers, and of course UGC also upload question papers. But but our university question papers are not available, or CUCT question papers have to be uploaded. So when all this examination and its question papers are through virtual, there is no need of a deliberate attempt of uploading all this. Automatically all those will get uploaded. So what a student has to do, just go into the supermarket of these question banks and then select, and then you have to make your own choice. A student is given with a responsibility of making your own choice, because everything is available for you and your duty is to select out of it. And important peril of this particular issue is that this will give rise to a new situation which can be called as responsibilization of the students. I do not know whether there is a word like a responsibilization. It originates from responsibility. That means the students will be given the ultimate responsibility of their success and failure. Responsibilization of the students, because you are given with enormous questions and enormous answers. You are given with all this. Your duty is to go, select, and then study, and then reproduce it in the examination. So since these opportunities are available with you, everything is with you, your duty is to reproduce. You have to go and select. You have to remain a lot of time in the margin supermarket of question papers, and then select virtual market of question papers, select, do your necessary homeworks, and then reproduce it. Here what happens, a student is being projected by fading his context, his different contexts, like social context, social context, technical context, cultural context, and different kinds of contexts. Now, if you look into the case of India, we know that less than 88% of Indian children has a digital equipment for their own digital studies, their own digital. A large number of children are depending upon the digital equipments of their parents. And if there is 2 children in a family, and there will be a debate of the equipment. And then if, it is a girl children, again, there is gender issues and gender concerns comes up, because, Indian traditional, orthodox parents, I do not know the percentage of it. Sometimes you can guess it. Orthodox parents do not trustfully give their mobile phones or laptops to the girl children, because thinking that they will be engaging into some other. And different kinds of issues related to this digital equipments will come up. Whether you have digital equipments, whether you have sufficient internet facility, whether your digital equipment is very sufficient for you to look and then rewrite the question papers, record it, your storage, nothing will be a matter. The point is that you are given the responsibility. You are given all the freedom of selecting, since you have the responsibility. Success and failure as the choice of students, absolutely only the responsibility of the student, has a very dangerous situation, which has been explained by something which is quite similar to what has been explained by Emily Durkheim in his famous book, Suicide, a Study in Sociology. Suicide. What Emily Durkheim says is that in a pre-capitalist society, in a pre-modern society, or in a pre-modern society, in the sense the society which was before, this kind of an extreme capitalism, what happens, people were being divided on the base of their family. Family has a major role. Community has a major role, religion was having a major role, something of that sort. When the capitalist society came up, urbanism came up, what happens? A great deal of the responsibility of the community, family, and all these kind of things has got reduced. And as a result, if a man select a woman for his marriage, in the earlier society, this selection was done by the family or maybe family members, or there were strict regulations like religion, community, and all this kind of thing. When in a capitalist society, nothing of this will matter, and every responsibility of selecting this will be the responsibility of the bride and groom. So you are responsible for your selection. Take the case of an industry. In a capitalist society, you can do any kind of business. In the earlier society, you were being given with certain kind of family job, labor, division of labor, all these kind of things were there. I don't argue that this although kind of traditional system should reproduce, but I was projecting an important aspect of this capitalist society. So if your business is failure, you are responsible in a capitalist society. Similarly, and that's what Emily Durkheim says, in the capitalist societies, number of suicide is higher because the responsibility of the individual is very high. Community, family, other kind of bondings do not have any role in controlling you. Instead, almost all the activities undertaken by you is under your own responsibility, and as a result of this, responsibilization has given rise to the number of suicides in capitalist society. And I'm not going to warn that there will happen suicides because of this. What is going to happen? Of course, suicide is very much there because most important the reason for suicide in India is examinations. As per the National Crime Record Bureau statistics in 2018, 6,000 students have committed suicide because of examination. This is the highest number, not because of love failure or anything of those sort. In India, highest suicide happened just because of failure in examination or the fear related to examination. And I am sure that this will further induce the issue of the struggle of our students. I am a student. I wanted to distribute newspaper in the morning for my bread. Sometimes I have to support my mother. Sometimes I have to support my father. I have to share their job with me, but nothing matter. You are given with all the facilities, supermarket of questions and answers. If you are failed, none of your conduct is going to have any impact on it. Is going to be considered for that. Instead, you are responsible, not your context. So the context is faded, individual is projected. That is an important issue of this accumulation of questions and knowledge in our modern society. This is going to be an important issue in our modern society. And I would like to, I think it's 20 minutes which is given to me. I think I should constrict myself within that time. I hope I'm not beyond the time. With one more slide, I'll be just finishing it. As a result of this accumulation and responsibilization, what's going to happen is subordination of teachers and students to the machines or the devices, digital devices in our society. Subordinating teachers to the machine. Virtual assessment needs virtual classes. Certainly, there is no doubt. Will somebody conduct a face-to-face class and then go for virtual examination? I don't think people will do that. Otherwise, we are doing it out of craze. Virtual assessments will certainly need a precondition that will be virtual classrooms as well. The virtual, all kinds of online initiatives of our modern society, I would like to call it as a kind of a pacifier. Now, pacifier is something which we give to the children. When the child cries, we put this pacifier into their mouth. Child will think that this is something like milk and I'm just eating, I have the feeling of eating. This is kind of pacifier is a kind of something which will give you an impression that you are given with something. And this online initiatives like MOOC, I'm quite little worried that in the last budget it has been said that it is not massive open online courses. It is going to be massive open online programs. It's not only courses. Now the whole program is going to be in MOOC, in this digital mode. SWAYAM mode or maybe other platforms. So MOOC is coming up. As a result, what happened at present, our total number of enrollment at higher education level in India is 25.6, I believe, if I'm not wrong, 25.6 or so. And the new draft policy on national education, national policy on education says that by 2030, our target is to achieve 50% of enrollment at higher education level. So since from the independence, we have crossed more than 7 decades, our total enrollment is 25%, roughly around. So now within 10 years, how will we reach this 50%? Means 2030, how will we reach this 50%? There is an answer. It is through MOOC, massive open online program. So I'm sure that if this massive online open program is going to be introduced, we are going to be 100% or more than 50%, at least more than 50% enrollment even before 2025, I'm sure. But this MOOC is giving only a pacifying effect for the aspirer of higher education. It doesn't have a real feeling of education. Instead, you log in and do your work at kitchen or do your work at the garden or wherever you want. It only looks whether you are online or not. It doesn't have a very robust system to check whether you are really indulged in the lecture, listening to the lecture or so. So this virtual assessments needs virtual classes. And another important thing is, in this way, the teachers will be getting subordinated. Say, for example, a lecture which is given by me for the MOOC program was about critical pedagogy. Usually when I go for orientation programs and refresher course, I do this lecture by taking 3 hours. Still, I am not so happy that I could not complete it. But for the MOOC program, I have found another important capability of myself, because I have compressed it to half an hour, 30 minutes. The thing which I have done for 3 hours, I have reduced to 3 minutes. I have condensed it to into 30 minutes. All these new capabilities are being kept into human beings, induced into the teachers by this MOOC and all these kind of facilities in the virtual world. Now, thereby, your video will be there, you will not be there. As a result, a digital world will happen. And second is, setting the question paper, you will not be needed. I told you already. Pulling out, randomly selecting questions from the question bank will be possible after 10 years. You need not be needed for setting a question paper. And then valuation, another important thing, valuation. Valuation using keywords in answer is developing. Now, several software companies are working on this particular project. How to value objective type question is already there. How to value essay type question. There is a lot of works which are going on in software companies. How will you value essay type questions? Now, things are coming up, and as a result, what happens, essay type question valuing, the software also will be out. What they are working mainly is on something like plagiarism checking. Say, for example, if you ask for an essay type question, you will have some, say for example, if it is 10-mark question, you will have some, some 50 or 50 to 60 keywords. In that particular essay type question, 50 to 60 keywords. And the system, the software will check that whether there is sufficient number of keywords in this answer which is being given by the student. And if this number of keywords are there, this system can provide assign mark for the essay of a student. Something like kind of a plagiarism checking. Plagiarism also is being done like this. Similarity of the words are being used for identifying the words, and word structure is being used for identifying the plagiarism. So here again, valuation, we thought that our teachers' presence will be needed. Don't worry, that also is going to be taken away from this. So absolutely teacher proof means human-less intervention, human-less examinations will be the result of this. As a result, what I would like to say is there is an
Professor Amrit,
yes?
can you put the questions?
Yeah.
There are questions coming up. And
okay.
If you could just wind up in 1 or 2 minutes, that would be really good.
Yeah. The questions. I'll be looking at question, then I'll directly. I'll be winding it up. Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Shall we go to the questions, or would you like to?
Yeah. Sure.
I'll take only 2 questions. Dr. Somu Singh, I don't know whether he's here or not, but to avoid any delay in the timing, I'll read out what he meant. His question was, what are the actual reasons behind when we abide by the own taxonomy of educational objectives? So he's mentioning Bloom's taxonomy primarily, and so he's asking whether what would be the actual reason behind when we talk about Bloom's taxonomy, and that it is given so much of importance while making lesson plans objectives.
So his question is about the importance of this Bloom's taxonomy.
Yes, across teacher education programs, I think there is a common belief that one should state the objectives in the lesson plan very clearly. So his question, I think, is related to that. And the other question that somebody pointed, I'm sorry, I won't be able to take. There were so many questions, but I won't be able to take. They will all email it to you. I randomly selected 2. The other question that I randomly selected is by Mr. Satish Pathak, who's asking what one can do if objectivity is also affected by subjectivity. So, which is in case of, let's say, divergent thinking. Actually, this was a concern by many. How do we assess creativity, values, innovativeness? I think this is attached to this question. Will cover all that. So, if you could please respond to these questions, and then we'll go on to Professor Jeffrey's presentation.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Yeah, the reasons behind the importance of Bloom's taxonomy, is mainly because maybe a large number of educational researchers from India has visited Bloom, and then they have learned from Bloom. Say, for example, people like Professor A. Sukumaran Nair from Kerala, and people like, if my memory goes correct, Dave from Baroda, or some people from different parts of the country has visited US, and they were the students of Benjamin Bloom. Because of their influence, we first came to know about this Bloom's taxonomy, and of course Bloom's taxonomy has got a lot of acceptance at international level as well. The main reason why we haven't developed a taxonomy of ourselves is an important question. That's a very interesting question. Why we don't have a taxonomy of instructional objectives of our own? The prime responsibility of this particular question goes to ourselves, because we don't have any kind of work. Even taxonomy of instructional objectives. Benjamin Bloom has a taxonomy of teaching objectives, but whether it is bad or not, I don't think that there is good initiatives about working on a taxonomy. So Euro-American influence, which happens here till early 60s, influence was from Europe, like Birmingham University's syllabus was carried out, and then 60 afterwards we have seen the influence of America. So a kind of a Europeanism was dominating in Indian teacher education system. So we have blindly taken it. We have to seriously think about why don't we think about a new kind of a taxonomy? Or it's not that Bloomian taxonomy is very bad. Bloomian taxonomy, you have to take up the positives and then we have to customize it according to the needs of Indian society. And the question of objectivity by Professor Satish Dhawan, I believe, objectivity is affected by subject. What will happen? Objectivity is affected by subjective. In fact, that's a very good question. There is nothing absolutely objective and there is nothing absolutely subjective. Pure objectivity is a myth, and pure subjectivity also is a myth. So there is no issue of pure objective and pure subjective. So what we happen to see in our modern society is an iron fist of the authorities and the people who believe that objective is equal to scientific. But I strongly disagree with this point of view. Science is not only absolutely objective, science has a subjective side as well. Because the main idea of science was the progress of humankind or mankind. Unfortunately, over the period of our society, development of mankind, science has become robust and stronger, but the progress of society in terms of equality of human being has never been attained. So the objectivity that we talk about is a kind of a midway of objectivity, and we are not sure. Even in fixing objectivity, we have subjective. So, for example, take the case of research methodology. The most objective research methodology that we fix has the subjectivity of the person who prepared it, who designed it. So there is no question of pure objective. Thank you, Satish, for that question. Anything else, Dr. Hani?
Well, there are many, but due to paucity of time, we will not be able to take them. I think we'll send your email to the participants. There are many compliments as well, and people were really wishing if your session could be extended beyond an hour. But we're very sorry for limiting it here. Thank you so much, Professor Amrut. Very well presented, and the answers were also very well responded to. I now request Professor Jeffrey. Professor Jeffrey, could you please switch on your switch on your video and.
Thank you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah, we can see you.
And you can see me too. Okay, very good. And let's see. I think can you see my screen? Is my entire screen visible, or is it only me?
We can see this. Yeah. Yes. So we can see your dashboard.
Okay, very good. Okay, excellent, excellent, very good. So this is what I was hoping to be able to show you today. So first, I want to thank you for allowing me to present today. I entirely due to my own miscalculation, I was not available yesterday. I had thought my presentation was today, so I apologize for me in today's session. I'll just get straight to my presentation because I know time is short for everyone. To talk about today is the importance of three basic qualities when we have shifted to this online mode of education because of the COVID-19 situation. Adaptive, passion, and creativity. These are three things that I think are really essential to us as we have shifted into this online mode. So I want to elaborate on each of those and I mean by adaptability, compassion, and creativity, and connect it with the courses that I've been teaching this semester. So first, I'm going to talk about the situation pre and then the adaptations that I had to make this semester as we moved entirely to an online teaching mode. So this dashboard that you see in front of you, this is from a platform. I'm not here today to advertise this platform. This is just the platform that my college uses. And I don't think it's something you can acquire individually. It's something that an institution can invest in. And our particular college, Elizabethtown College in Pennsylvania, uses this platform called Canvas. And so I've been using Canvas now for the last approximately 3 to 4 years in my courses. And these courses are all face-to-face courses. These are not online courses, but this particular platform is very useful for communicating with students and for making material available to students. And so since you can see it, I just give you an example of how this works. So right now I'm clicking on a course that I teach called Dharma Traditions. It's a that explores Hindu traditions, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism. And you see here, this is what the home page looks like. So there's my name, my email ID, my office hours, telephone, contact information, everything. This is something the students can very easily access. If they want to contact me, they immediately see my information. And if you see what I've done here, I organized the entire course, the entire semester, based on the day of the week, the date, and the topic. So you hear we started on 13th of January, which was a Monday. That day, I just introduced the syllabus and had the students introduce themselves. And then we started getting into the topic. And so if you're seeing my screen now, Dharma traditions and overview. So this was a day that was dedicated to giving a broad overview of what the course was going to cover and giving the students a sense of what they were going to be studying. So I had the ability in my classroom while I was face-to-face with the students to access this. The computer was attached to a projector and I could, for example, open up this PowerPoint which I created and it's downloading right now. I would open it up and there you have my presentation, right? Does everyone see the elephant there? I basically use this PowerPoint as the basis of the lecture that I gave on that day, right? And so that just gives you an idea of the kind of daily activities that I would be doing. And they're all available here on this Canvas website. So each day I would go into class, I would open up the website, And it would also include the readings. Here we have, I had them reading a book called Vedanta, A Simple Introduction. So all of their assignments, everything is there. So Canvas acts like something like a syllabus. Every day the students can check and see, okay, what am I supposed to read? What am I supposed to do? What's the topic we're covering? They can also open up the PowerPoints. We increasingly allow the students to bring their laptops, their devices to class, and they can be looking at the PowerPoint and making notes on it on their device while I'm also presenting and talking. Now, of course, this also involves a little bit of a trust issue. How do I know that they are looking at my PowerPoint and not checking Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or any of the various other distractions that are there online? I don't necessarily know, but I do have to, sort of watch their faces and see. I can tell. I've been teaching now for about 23 years. You can tell if a student's paying attention and if they're engaged with what you're saying, or if they're completely distracted, or if they're falling asleep. You can tell all of that when you're face to face. So, I usually had a pretty good idea of when they were paying attention. And another example, I will often show videos in class. There's this lovely animated version of the Ramayana, which I have a link to YouTube right here on Canvas. I can click that and it goes straight to YouTube, and we can watch the Ramayana video, for example. So those are just a few things that we can do with Canvas. So when we talk about the terminology we often use here in the US, when we talk about a course that has a face-to-face component as well as an online component, we call that a hybrid course. And by utilizing Canvas in the way that I have basically turned most of my courses into hybrid courses, because we do meet face-to-face, we have regular meetings, regular discussions, and yet at the same time, all of the basic course material is available on a handy website that the students can access anytime in order to follow along with me. They can work ahead. They can see what's happening on a given day. You'll notice here on day 16, guest lecture by Bhante Sujata. Bhante Sujata is a Theravada Buddhist monk from Sri Lanka who comes and visits my course every other semester. And so, they know from day to day what is going on and what their responsibilities are. So, and this, of course, gives you an idea of the array of topics that are covered in this course. Now, this course is the largest course that I teach. I'm at a small college. So large here means 35 students. So it's not like a university where we might have 200, 300 students. For me, a large course is 35 students. But I have to keep those 35 students engaged with what I'm saying and with the course material whenever we're meeting in person. And so this Canvas tool is very, very handy. Now, I teach, of course, other types of class as well. And one of the things I want to get into in terms of adaptability is how we need to use. I'm sorry, is there a question? Okay.
No, please continue.
Okay, thank you very much. So that is a large course. This is what we call a core course. That is a general education course. All of our students need to take courses in a non-Western culture. And so I'm very happy to say the Dharma Traditions course is a very popular outlet for students to do that. But I teach other things as well. You can see here my Sanskrit course, which is, of course, a language class. And relatively small class. I had 12 students in Sanskrit this semester. And then you see here something called the Capstone in Religious Studies. This is a small seminar course for students who are specializing in my field. This is only 7 students. And the pedagogies that are appropriate for these 3 courses are all very different from one another. So, for example, when you're teaching Sanskrit, of course, you're teaching a language. So it's very interactive, and the students are learning to read the Devanagari script. They're learning to pronounce the terms correctly. They're learning basic grammar, and there's a lot of interaction constantly happening. In the capstone course, this upper level course with a small number of students, again, it's a small group of students and they are planning to specialize in this field. So again, it's highly interactive. The pedagogy typically is that they do a reading each week and we get together and we discuss that in great depth. And so it's a conversation, it's a seminar. The Dharma Traditions course, the large core course that I mentioned, in that course, because there are a large number of students in it, it's a little less interactive. It's more of my giving a presentation and also having to maintain the attention of students who are from a variety of different fields. I have engineers, I have students in biology, I have students in psychology, I have students in English, social work, education, a vast array of backgrounds. So it has to be, I hate to use the word entertaining, but it has to maintain the attention of these students whose main specialization is not necessarily this particular topic. So I'm doing different things in each course. Now, a couple of things about my teaching ethos that I want to mention, and this also pertains to these questions of adaptability, compassion, and creativity. Because I'm teaching Indian culture, because I'm teaching things like Vedanta and Buddhism and Jainism and so forth, most of the students, because I'm teaching in America, most of the students have little or no knowledge whatsoever of any of this, right? They know very, very little about India. India is unfortunately not very well known to the average person in this country, and what little they do know is often incorrect. I don't know how many of you are familiar with some of the textbook controversies that have happened in the United States, but because the Hindu community is not very well represented here, Buddhism is not very well represented here. As a result of that, a lot of the textbook materials the students have had in high school and even earlier is based on very old, outdated scholarship, and also a lot of things that are from the colonial period, and it often does not present things very well. You often get a very one-sided kind of presentation of India and of the various traditions. So I have to serve not only as a source of information, but I'm really something like a cultural ambassador when I'm teaching. I'm trying to act in the role of a bridge between these students and their American culture and background, which is something I grew up with, and the cultures and the traditions of India, which is something I've learned and acquired as an adult. And so I'm trying to embody these traditions as much as I can, as well as give instruction about them. And I know one of the questions earlier from one of the earlier presentations talked about the guru-shishya relationship. And this is something I try to capture in my teaching, that I see myself as having a responsibility not only to present accurate information, but also to reflect in the way I relate to the students what these traditions are all about. And this is where the compassion, the creativity, and the adaptability, I think, come in, because there has to be a realization that these students are human beings, right? They're whole persons. And they're not simply there as receptacles for information. They are going to take this knowledge and use it in some fashion in their life and in their career. And whether that is as teachers like myself, specialists in this field, which would be very few, or if we're talking about people who are going to go into technical careers, but they're going to be interacting with people from different countries and different cultures. And also, many of the students say they find wisdom in these traditions for their own life. Many students will take courses in these topics because they have questions for themselves about the meaning and purpose of their existence, what happens after death, all of these big questions that religions and philosophies engage with. So I want them to come away from the course with a positive sense of what these traditions all have to offer. And how I interact with them, I think, is a very important part of that. I once heard this expression, and I don't know who the source is, but there was someone who once said about teaching that your students will not remember what you taught them so much as they will remember how they felt when they were in your class, how you made them feel. Did they feel engaged? Did they feel respected? Did they feel that they mattered in some sense in the learning process? And so this way of thinking has been informing my teaching for a very long time, because I think it's part of my responsibility as someone who's teaching another culture in America to convey it in this way, where, I had a student once who had a brother who had taken a similar course to mine at another university. And the professor in that course apparently, unfortunately, was very irritable and unapproachable and rather difficult to work with. And as a result, the student's brother came away with a very negative impression of the top. The course was on Buddhism. And his brother was saying, "Oh, I hate Buddhism. I hate Buddhism." Well, the reason he hated it was because he had a very bad experience with the teacher who was teaching Buddhism. It wasn't the fault of Buddhism, right? It was the problem of the teacher. So this is the basic ethos from which I'm coming in my pedagogy. So how does this relate to COVID-19 and the online teaching? Well, a couple of things. We went into lockdown on, I believe it was the 13th of March, right before my birthday, actually. We went into lockdown, and we received the announcement from our college that professors would be given 4 days to adapt their courses to an entirely online format. And then for the remainder of the semester, we would be teaching online. And many of our faculty were understandably very upset about this. Many of them had never done any online teaching. And they said, you're going to give me only 4 days to do this entirely new thing. And they really, I have to say on behalf of our faculty, they very courageously took on this task and really did as much as they could to deliver the courses through this online medium that none of them were used to. I fortunately had a little bit of experience with this already. I have an online Indian philosophy course, and I had already taught that before. So I had some experience teaching online. I also had the good fortune that, as you've already seen from the dashboard, my courses already have somewhat of an online component already, right? The Dharma Traditions course, all the videos, all the PowerPoints, everything was already there. So I thought, well, okay, this is not going to be such a problem. But I found, again, that I had to be adaptable, creative, and compassionate, because the students found this adaptation actually quite difficult, and more so than I expected. In fact, my assumption going into this process was, well, the students are, this younger generation is so acclimated already to devices and phones and the internet that this is going to be easy for them. And in fact, it's going to be us, the professors, who are going to be struggling. But I found, in fact, it was quite the opposite. And many issues that people have been mentioning in the chat in the last couple of talks, I've been following the chat pretty closely, as well as listening to the talks. Many of the issues students in India have had, our students in America have had as well. What if there's only one device in the household and 5 people trying to use the same device? Maybe you have father and mother both working from home, also needing the device, and then the student, and then the student's brother and sister, and they're all trying to use the same device. What do you do? What do you do if you live in a remote area and the Wi-Fi is not very good? And so the students had some difficulty, technical difficulty in that sense. But there was also, I think, a sense of being uprooted, that the personal face-to-face interaction was gone, that the structure of every day getting up and going to X number of classes. Okay, if it's Wednesday at 2 o'clock, I go to Dr. Long's Dharma Traditions class, and there I am. Having to take more of the initiative on their own to do their work. This was a big challenge for many. Online education presents both challenges and opportunities. And I think of these especially in terms of the choice of. I'm getting a bit of disturbance. Okay.
Request the participants to please mute yourself.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So, where was I? Oh, so anyway, the sense of being uprooted, right? And I was just thinking of the challenges and the opportunities that that online teaching presents. And one of these that has really loomed large, I think, in my experience and also in the experience of our college, has to do with the choice of teaching in a synchronous or asynchronous manner. And Professor Singh earlier was mentioning this in one of her slides, that synchronous teaching, of course, means you're teaching at the same time. It means you're trying to replicate as much as possible the classroom experience. So in cases like this, the other technology besides Canvas that we used was something called Zoom, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. And many of us would use Zoom in order to have a virtual classroom. And we could then engage our students in real time, answer questions, give presentations. And this would be a way of, again, replicating the classroom experience as much as possible. The asynchronous approach is one that I took previously in my Indian philosophy class, in which the students are really entirely on their own. They have readings they need to do, videos they need to watch. They need to post responses to these things on discussion boards. They need to submit papers, and they do this entirely on their own time. And I found the asynchronous approach pre-COVID-19, right, when we were all still having face-to-face classes, that the option of having one or two asynchronous online courses was very appealing to students because of their schedules, because they would often be very busy. A lot of our students in America, in addition to taking classes, are also working a job. And these jobs can sometimes be very demanding in terms of time. And I don't know how many of you remember your college days, but I remember my college days. College students' schedules are very different from adult schedules. And I would find in my Indian philosophy class that students were uploading their comments and uploading their papers at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., keeping hours that I wouldn't even want to imagine what it would be like. But I remember doing some of that myself when I was much younger. So they liked the asynchronous approach because they could... Okay. All right. Okay, presentation with sound effects. All right. So the asynchronous approach was popular with many students when they, of course, also had other classes meeting face-to-face. Now, when we switched entirely to online, I was not sure if that approach would actually be appealing to many of the students. And if you want to think of maybe a spectrum with two maybe extreme ends on it, at one end, you would have a professor who would try as much as possible to replicate the face-to-face experience all of the time. So at all of the normal class meeting times, let's say your class met every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 2 p.m., which my Dharma traditions did. It would be as if I'm at every Monday, Wednesday at 2, I was there giving a Zoom presentation to the students. And so it would be really replicating the face-to-face experience. At the other extreme end of the spectrum would be something like my Indian philosophy class, which would be entirely asynchronous. It would be up to the students. I would not interact with them at all unless they had questions, which they could email to me or send through the discussion board. And then I would assess the whole thing at the end. What I found, and here's where the adaptability and the compassion, I think, really play an important role. What I found was that
Sorry to interrupt. We'll appreciate if you could just finish it in 1 or 2 minutes, please.
Yes. Yes, I can do that very quickly because
yeah, we've almost got the time. It's very
yes.
interesting, but we are very bound to either connect. We lose the connection in a couple of minutes if we don't do this.
Oh, okay. So
Thank you.
I'll be very quick. I'll be very quick then. Well, basically what I found was I had to communicate a lot with the students to see what they preferred. And what I found in my Dharma Traditions class, for example, which used to meet 3 days a week, was that the students found that overwhelming when they were at home and working through online, and when they had to share the device and they had all of these other pressures. They said, can we just meet once a week? And we did that. We met once a week. They could ask their questions, and the rest they could handle asynchronously. With my seminar class, we met very faithfully every time that would correspond to one of our in-person meetings. We would very faithfully meet and discuss and do the same thing we did in person, because discussion was the essence of that class. And then, of course, with language, with Sanskrit, I came up with, I had to be creative. I came up with an adaptation where we would meet by Zoom once a week, and I would create a PowerPoint, which I would share with the students as I made it. And I would essentially use the PowerPoint as a blackboard. And I would take their questions and we would work through sentences and grammar together online. And then the rest of the time, then they would then do their assignments. So I found this worked very well. I find that our semester has just ended, and I've received an enormous amount of very positive feedback from the students. And so I would just conclude by saying, you know, we have to listen to the students, understand their needs, be compassionate, and adapt to them as much as it's feasible to do so. And if there's time for questions, I'm very happy to take them.
Thank you, Professor Jeffrey, for concluding it right at the time. If there are any questions, there weren't many questions in the chat box. You can have a look at the chat box, and there were many related to feedback, but I think you can respond to them in the chat box, because we're really running out of time. I apologize for this. I invite Miss Vinita Kambri, who's been an alumni of CIE, and she's currently teaching as PGT in Hindi in one of the schools, in a government school. Vinita ji, if you're there, can you please come up? Vinita Kambri, ma'am, aap
yeah.
जी
नमस्कार
जी नमस्कार मैम
मेरी आवाज सुनाई दे रही है?
बिल्कुल
जी, देखिए, सबसे पहले तो मैं बधाई देना चाहूंगी इस वेबिनार को ऑर्गेनाइज करने के लिए आप सभी को, पूरी की पूरी ऑर्गेनाइजिंग कमेटी को। आपने बहुत ही रेलेवेंट सब्जेक्ट पर बहुत ही सार्थक और सटीक वेबिनार करने की सोच अपनाई है। और उससे बढ़कर बात यह है कि जो आज का आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस का दौर है, इसमें इस वर्चुअल टीचिंग और उसके चैलेंजेस को एड्रेस करने की बहुत ज्यादा जरूरत है। और ये बात भी मैं कहना चाहती हूँ कि हम एक बड़े मुश्किल दौर से गुजर रहे हैं आजकल, और इसमें जो इस तरह के क्रांतिकारी चिंतन है उनकी बहुत ज्यादा जरूरत होती है। Especially, I would like to thank my very good friend and classmate of my CIE days, Dr. Pankaj. हम अक्सर इस बात को डिस्कस करते रहते हैं कि वर्चुअल टीचिंग में आप स्टूडेंट्स के व्यवहार को मॉनिटर कैसे कर सकते हैं। इस पर हम सभी को विचार करने की बहुत जरूरत है, ताकि वर्चुअल टीचिंग जो है वो कहीं वर्चुअल फैक्ट्स और नॉलेजेस बनकर ही ना रह जाए। और जैसा कि प्रोफेसर जेफरी ने भी मेंशन किया था कि गुरु शिष्य की जो परंपरा है, वो परंपरा कहीं खो ना जाए, उसको जानना, उसको समझना बहुत जरूरी है। जैसे 1 मिनट के लिए मैं जरूर ये बात कहना चाहूंगी कि हमारा जो डॉक्टर सलूजा के साथ संबंध है, वो सिर्फ क्लासरूम टीचिंग तक ही सीमित नहीं है, उसके अलावा भी हमारा बहुत गहरा संबंध उनका सभी स्टूडेंट्स के साथ रहा है, जिससे भी कंप्यूटर की स्क्रीन को देखकर एक टीचर के साथ नहीं बन सकता।
बिल्कुल, एब्सोल्युटली राइट। विनीता जी, आपकी पूरी बात से मैं बिल्कुल सहमत हूँ। सलूजा जी से हम भी कल वो आए भी थे यहाँ पर, और वी रियली मिस हिम इन CIE। उनका जो जुड़ाव था इंस्टीट्यूट के साथ वो बहुत ही अलग था, और आई कंप्लीटली एग्री टू व्हाट यू आर सेइंग। धन्यवाद विनीता जी, thank you so much for these lovely words. So with this we conclude this session, the second session with Professor Amrut and Professor Jeffrey. I now invite my colleague Dr. Sunita Singh to take over the next session. Sunita ji, please.
Talk longer.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for giving me this opportunity. Already we are late up to 6:30. So, am I audible and seen on the screen?
Ha, Sunita ji, you're audible and you're visible as well.
Please, is presentation mode ko hataएं.
Ha, Professor Jeffrey, you need to switch off your slides, your presentation mode, please.
Oh, okay. Sorry
Screen
about that.
sharing.
Here we go.
Thank you. Sunita, over.
Yeah. Thank you so much, ma'am. Good evening to all of you. Today, I welcome to my dear speaker, who are very young, Lu Angelavity, Assistant Professor from Indonesia. She is teaching English education in English Education Study Program, Faculty of Teacher Training and Education, Kristen University, Indonesia, Jakarta. Her specialization is in English language, learning, teaching, and assessment. She is using most preferably blended learning approach in pedagogy. Today, he giving her lecture on maintaining transparent, authentic assessment in virtual EFL learning. That is English as a foreign language. So without Lou Angelavity, please continue. Lou is there? Hello, Lou?
Yes. Can you hear my
Yeah,
voice?
could you please continue? Yeah. You are seen and audible. Please continue.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. It's a great pleasure for me to be here. First of all, I would like to say thank you so much for the time given and invitation offered by the committee to me to present my material in this international webinar. Without further ado, please give me a moment to begin my presentation. Well, as what has been mentioned by Dr. Sunita, my topic for today's session is maintaining transparent authentic assessment in virtual EFL classroom. And as what has been mentioned, my complete name is Lo Angelianawati from Universitas Kristen Indonesia, Jakarta, Indonesia. Well, actually, I would like to thank to Prof. Jeffrey because actually what I will explain or share now is related to what you have explained just now. And I do agree with you about that there are three components that should be included in virtual learning nowadays, especially about adaptability, creativity, and compassion. Well, dear all, when we talk about the recent global issues, we know that COVID-19 pandemic is among us, and then in some countries are locked down. Even in Indonesia, we are restricted by large-scale social restrictions. So actually, it's not yet locked down, but we have a kind of social distancing at this moment, and we are working from home. And this condition influenced the educational policies in Indonesia, especially restriction on closing the schools, universities, and workplaces temporarily until everything safe and can be managed. And then next, coming a question: what should be done by the educators, by institutions, to continue the academic condition or academic environment? We still have learning objectives to be achieved, so the only option is online learning, especially virtual learning. So virtual learning become the only option, and then only online situation become the default mode for learning. And even higher education moves completely into technology-mediated situation of teaching and learning conditions, and college totally go online. And for this condition, we cannot avoid the best practices of blended learning. We have experienced face-to-face classroom, and then just now we are experiencing virtual learning. And so we can see that the best practices involved in blended learning, especially virtual learning, can be implemented in our virtual learning nowadays. The first one is about the usage of videos to supplement face-to-face instructions, as what has been mentioned by the previous professors, that videos uploaded to the online learning platform or even to the web page can become sources for the students to have learning environment, and even it can personalize the learning situation, and students can or even may have